Well, thank you for joining me, friends. Hey, why don't we jump in and talk about Chapter 9 of Lies My Doctor Told Me, Medical Myths That Can Harm You by Dr. Ken Berry. I do recommend, even though we're going through this book, that you guys go and purchase this book and read this for yourself. But let's start in on Chapter 9. Nuts and seeds don't cause this problem. Here's our lie. Eating popcorn, nuts, and seeds will either cause diverticulitis or cause diverticulitis to flare up. That's the lie. So let's go to the next section. Why should you care? Well, one, we need to know what diverticulitis is. And what it is when small pouches push outwards of your intestines. So it's kind of like little bubbles or bumps of the intestines, or blisters, so to speak, is how I kind of saw it. Weak spots is another word they use. Here's the interesting thing. They are common in individuals who eat a Western diet and are older than 40. And we're going to learn more about why the Western diet is a factor. So, of course, why should you care? Well, if we have it, we need to know it and understand it. But why you really need to care, if nuts and seeds do not cause this, then we need to know that. Because if we believe this lie, then what that means is if we have this condition, we are missing out on a very nutritional, great source of protein that we could have. That's why it's important for us to care about this. So in our section, support for the lie, he goes on to tell us there is no research, or there hasn't been any research to support this lie. And what bothers him is that doctors just blatantly tell us this over and over and over, even though there's no evidence to support it. In the section for the common sense, he goes on and tells us this is another one of those where our common sense kind of fools us a little bit. Because it does make common sense that if you have an irritation in your bowel, you wouldn't want to eat anything that's small, tiny, and hard because we think it would, aggravate it, right? So our common sense tells us this, but it's just not true. And since it sounds like a common sense thing, that also supports the doctor's belief in this lie. Let's go to the research section. He goes on to tell us that there is one very large study from the JAMA, which is the Journal of American Medical Association, and it should have been required reading for all doctors because it comes out and says absolutely nuts and grains does not aggravate or cause diverticulitis. It's the opposite. It has an inverse reaction. The fact that it provides so much nutrition for us that we should eat it. We don't want to miss out on a great source of nutrition. And once again, he mentions the fact that he's still kind of in disbelief that doctors can just blatantly continue these lies and not follow the research or update themselves. And to him, that's very frustrating, and you can find that throughout his book. In the take-home section, what he's really wanting us to take away from this is nuts and seeds have so much nutritional value that we need to eat them, to consume them, have them part of our diet, and that it truly does not cause diverticulitis. And that's becoming more common now. That lie is starting to change. Also in this section, he talks about a couple of the patients in his practice and how difficult it is to get that lie to start shifting to the new truth, because doctors still want to tell this lie, want to market this lie, whatever you want to call it, and patients still believe it. But when patients start to understand that this is truly a lie, then they can start getting better and they can figure out what triggers their diverticulitis. So he continues on and talks a little bit about a couple of patients of his, right? And what he says here, which I think is really good, my patient wanted to know what I thought was causing his flare-ups. I explained what I had read in this article, the journal, the JMA, where it associated smoking, being overweight, and eating large quantities of red meat. So being overweight, smoking, and eating red meat, a heavy Western diet, and lifestyle can cause the flare ups. And he also talks about anti inflammatory medicines can also be a cause of this. And the section Do as I Do, he just simply says, look, I love nuts and seeds. He eats them, he watches his weight, he doesn't smoke, and he's never had a bout of diverticulitis at all in his life. So he says, go ahead and eat nuts and seeds in your diet. They're too valuable for you not to. In our homework section, he just wants us to go and find the JAMA article that he mentioned a little bit earlier in the chapter, read it for yourself. And if you have a doctor that is telling you this lie, print it off, take it to the doctor's office. My friends, very interesting little chapter, chapter 9. I thank you for watching me. I appreciate all the support and help. And we hopefully will see you guys in chapter 10.